Hi guys. In this video we're going to be having a look at the upgrades that I did from the Club Sport wheelbase 2.5 to this Fanatec Podium DD1. Whether I subjectively think it was a worthwhile upgrade, as well as going through the pros and cons of each of those solutions. Hopefully that gives you some more information when it comes to your upgrades. So let's start with the Club Sport wheelbase 2.5. So this was without a doubt the best wheelbase I've ever used to date, including the DD1. And I mean that for various reasons. The DD1 is an upgrade over the CSW, but the CSW was as near to perfect as I've ever experienced with a racing wheel. Upgrading from the G27, the feedback I was getting from the CSW was just a night and day difference. It was really so much clearer what the car was telling me. It highlighted a lot of the problems with my driving, and I managed to slowly start improving after that point. For me, it breathed new life into Assetto Corsa Competizione. Before that point, I was not overly thrilled with the driving experience, but after upgrading to the CSW, I could actually feel what the car was telling me, and it felt a much richer experience at the wheel. It's pretty much what got me hooked on ACC. So as previous wheels I'd used were of more budgetary nature, this was the first wheelbase I'd ever used that had a quick release mechanism, and for me that unlocked a new world of trying different types of rim. I had a formula rim unlocked to me. I had the ability to run third-party wheels. I have round wheels for my other activities, including rallying. Having the ability to throw on a new wheel or to tinker with your settings on the fly really was a great added value experience for me in this ecosphere. And I guess that goes for pretty much the whole of the Fanatec ecosphere here, that you can modify your settings on the fly via the wheel. That is a really nice thing to be able to do. And of course, the quick release mechanism is pretty much the same all the way through. I had some trouble with the software on occasion. Sometimes the firmware would fail and I had to kind of scramble to fix that. But the hardware itself never skipped a beat. So if the CSW 2.5 was so great, why did I upgrade? I guess, in a word, we're talking immersion here. That I wanted to feel richer detail, I wanted to feel more forces, and kind of give myself a more accurate reflection of what the experience would be like in the real world. Another kind of bugbear of mine with the belt-driven drives is that there's just that fraction of delay when it comes to receiving feedback, and that ultimately reduces your ability to catch slides. And yeah, it's not the easiest experience. Of course, you can adapt your driving to that, but it didn't feel quite natural. I was hoping a direct drive would be able to correct that for me. So as you would, I looked to stay into the same ecosphere, staying with Fanatec. I have lots of rims that are Fanatec, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to continue using them. And so that's why I looked at the DD1. I did also look at the DD2, but the feature set that had and how it differs from the DD1 wasn't really a compelling reason to buy it, so I went for the DD1. My first impressions, if you remember from the video that I did on that with the DD1, were a little muted. That sure, the feedback was more immediate and more powerful, but it didn't really feel more detailed to me. At least not with the recommended settings for Assetto Corsa Competizione. I played around with the settings a little bit, and that's helped to some degree. But it was a little bit surprising to me that I wasn't immediately blown away with the improvement from the CSW. I guess really that's a testament to how good the CSW really was for a belt drive. It was the pinnacle of belt drives before Fanatec moved on to dedicating itself to rear drives. Also, let's face it, I'd had plenty of time to focus on setting up that wheel. I had it for 9 months before moving to a DD1, and so I had plenty of time to tune and adjust not only the settings but my driving to those settings. I've had some time to tinker with the DD1 and some of the settings for the DD1, and now I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with the level of detail that I'm getting from the wheel. The DD1 is a solid step up from the CSW in terms of feedback, strength and detail once you've tuned it, but out of the box the experience isn't going to blow you away if you've already got such a wheel. And I can imagine with the CSL DD the difference is going to be even smaller. The lack of a front power button on the Podium range is a bit surprising, and with the DD1 you don't have a packaged remote power button or e-stop, so you're kind of left to your own devices fumbling at the back of the wheel. You can go for third-party solutions, or you can stump up the extra cash and grab yourself that e-stop, but it is an additional cost that you might not expect. And unfortunately, it's almost a necessity given how difficult it is to reach that switch at the back. DD1 and I suppose also the DD2 suffer from a couple of quite frustrating problems. The first is a bug in the ITM, which is the pretty display that you have on the front of both the DD1 and the DD2. In its default setting showing the Fanatec logo, all is fine. But if you go into Fanalab and adjust those settings, customize them, use any of the actual telemetry that you want to have displayed, then you get random jolts in game. It's a bug that's been around in Fanalab for a while now, and ever since I've had this wheel I've not been able to use that feature because of that bug and because of the jolts that that bug provides you in your feedback. The other issue is going to be quite an expensive hardware upgrade, in that it's an issue around how the quick release system works in Podium range. So in addition to the same quick release mechanism that you have through the whole of Fanatec's range, the Club Sport quick release also on the Podium wheelbase has a screw that you turn to tighten it up further, and there's a little rubber piece behind that. Now, okay, that slows down your addition of new wheels, but that's not the biggest problem in the world. However, when you use the wheel, it starts to build up tension in the quick release mechanism, probably around the spring, and it releases it whenever you've got to do any kind of sudden move. So if you're going through the corkscrew or skyline in Bathurst, then that's when I feel that problem the most, that I get a big clunk, a jolt from the quick release mechanism, which gives me feedback that isn't purely from the force feedback itself. It's not a problem I experienced with the CSW, and I think it's possibly around the additional forces that the Podium wheelbases provide, along with how the mechanism differs. And I've tried different mechanisms, not tightening up the screw as much, tightening it as much as I can, and just seeing how that changes things. It doesn't really make a big difference on whether I get that effect or not. The only thing that somewhat mitigates it but doesn't remove it completely is to insert the screw in the hole that's provided within the quick release, and that does reduce the impact of that particular problem, but it's still annoying, and it does really stop it from being quick release. The issues mentioned earlier, they do affect my conclusion when it comes to my thoughts on whether the DD1 is a good value proposition over the CSW in terms of an upgrade. The issues I've mentioned are fixable. Fanatec could provide a cut down version of the e-stop that's supplied with the DD1, and then have a premium version that you can upgrade to. They can bundle the QR2. Hopefully that fixes the issues around the QR slap that I've been seeing. And they could just fix their buggy software in the ITM. And then maybe many Podium owners will start singing the praises of that product. The DD1 is an improvement over the CSW 2.5, and that's to be expected. However, whilst I'd describe my experience with the CSW is almost flawless, I can't say the same with the Podium DD1. I have had more than my fair share of issues with it. When it comes to the EMI, I've experienced the rear-facing switch, the troubled ITM, and the slapping quick release. It does start to add up as a number of problems. It's the kind of thing that you would expect a more expensive stablemate to have flushed out of its system before it went into production. So at this point in time, I would say it might have been better to wait to see what the CSL DD reviews would have brought for me, or perhaps look further afield outside of Fanatec and into the other devices available. Although, of course, that would mean having to upgrade all of my rims at once, which would be quite expensive. I'm not saying the DD1 is a bad device. It is fantastic. It is a great device. However, the CSW 2.5 was a much better out-of-the-box experience. And being so good, I think it deserved a better upgrade path. Now, all what I've said here is quite subjective. There are some things that are obviously objective when it comes to the faults that I've listed out. So you can draw your own conclusions from what I've said here. But these are my thoughts and feelings on the DD1 after a few months of use. If you have a difference of opinion, feel free to message in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you and what you feel about the Podium series, or indeed any other direct drive that you may have upgraded from a CSW or any of the belt drives in the Fanatec range. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more of this great content. Until next time guys, bye for now.